Hello world, my name is John and this is a story of my life, part 2. Today is February 15th, 2018, and yesterday it was a Valentine's Day. Of course, I didn't celebrate it, but my sister did, and she went out for dinner with a man and she got a nice bouquet of roses, and I'm very happy for her that she's got somebody. And and right now I actually live with my sister in her studio apartment, and she's basically feeding me because I don't have any money. I'm flat broke. I ran out of money uh, because of my various activities, my real estate investing. So while I'm in Czechia, I'm located in Czechia right now. While I'm in Czechia, I'm selling a house, my latest project in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Okay, so my house is currently contract, under contract, and yesterday I actually had a appraiser going in the house and taking measurements and working on the appraisal. So I'm very curious uh, about how the appraisal will turn out, if it's gonna be enough, uh, if it's gonna be high enough to for the buyer, in order for the buyer to get the mortgage. Okay, so at this moment I literally got nothing else to do than just talk about my story, talk about myself. I just want to point out that I'm not really too crazy about my life, about my story, but I just figured, uh, I'm just gonna try to put it out there and see what other people say about it. If anybody's gonna watch this or whatever, I'm just gonna, go ahead and do it. And what I have to do, I have to pre-record these uh, now and post them online later, because my sister only's got limited internet, so I can't really upload anything right now. And I tried to upload it like in a coffee shop, but it didn't work out. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pre-record these, and once I cash out my house and I'll be able to buy a laptop computer and move somewhere else and get a fast internet, I'm gonna start posting these online. So last time, my last recording, I was talking about the Hurricane Mathew when it hit Fayetteville, North Carolina. I actually looked it up. I googled it up right now uh, to see the exact date. So it actually hit Fayetteville, North Carolina on October 8th, 2016, and it was pretty big hit. I mean, there was lots of rainfall, and it was like 12 or 16 inches of rainfall in one night, in one day, and it was devastating for the city. I mean, the entire downtown and many parts of the town was underwater. I mean, you can look up videos, and also my property has been affected, but not as much as other places in Fayetteville. I had water in a crawl space, but my house, actually the framing, the house wasn't touched. So let me get to it. Okay, so in September, I ran out of money. All right, I was really struggling. I went to the beach during the summer. Then I came back and I didn't work on the house, and then I started working on the house. And very shortly after that, I ran out of cash because I don't have any other job than just doing this, flipping houses. And I was only using my own cash money, and I didn't have any money coming in, and I'm just spending money. I'm not actually making any money while I'm working on the house. And because of the extra expenses and delays on my house, I just ran out of money. I also bought another house for $45,000. I bought a nice house, little house in New Ponderosa area in Fayetteville, and I was actually living in that house for free, basically. I just paid my bills and food and gas, but I didn't pay any rent, just taxes, basically. So I lived in that house, and I thought, I'm gonna be good with the money, and everything's gonna work out. But I did run out of money, and I started selling my personal items, like I sold my iPad Pro, I sold one of my GoPro cameras, I sold my bike, my expensive road bike, Cannondale Super 6 3, because I'm a road cycling enthusiast. So obviously right now I am not cycling because I don't have any bike, but once I have some money, I'm gonna get another bike and get right back to it. So I started selling my stuff, but it wasn't enough money, and I wasn't gonna make it. So I decided I'm gonna have to do something else. I have to either sell the house or sell my van, my brand new van I bought in 2015 for $40,000. Nice Ford Transit with a high roof and longer wheelbase. It was really nice van. I really liked it. It was my first work vehicle. I never had a work vehicle before. I only had passenger cars and SUV. I had a Acura MDX before that I bought brand new in 2009 and sold it in 2013. So I had that one for 5 years, and I put 180,000 miles on it in 5 years. And so that was basically my first work vehicle, and I was forced to sell it after like 15 months or so, and I lost $20,000 on it. So I was deciding either if I should sell the house that I bought, the smaller house, or the van. I was trying to sell the house first, and I actually had it under contract. Yeah, that's actually another story in between the story. Okay, within the story. I actually sold my little house first. All right, I sold it for $40,000. I had it under contract with a local guy who was buying properties. He was retired vet, and he was buying houses for investment. I don't know. He had some kind of company going on, and he said, "Yeah, I'm gonna buy it cash. I don't need any inspections or anything like that." So after like 3 weeks, nothing was happening. So I started calling. Okay, and in that time, 3 weeks or a month, I wasn't doing anything. I was just sitting and waiting for the money because I didn't have any money. I didn't have money for gas to go to the house. I didn't have money for food. I was just surviving with just whatever change money I had left. I was just surviving and waiting for the money uh, from from the house. So nothing was happening. So I started making phone calls, and they never he never actually wanted to buy the house. I mean, he probably changed his mind sometimes during the contract period, and he never wanted to uh, uh, go through with this deal. So it was really frustrating for me because I didn't know what's going on and I needed the money. So after like a month, he told me he don't want this house, and he was supposed to pay me the earnest money deposit of $500 because he didn't go through with the contract. He didn't close on the purchase. So he was supposed to pay me the $500, and I needed that money basically just for food, you know. And he didn't give me the deposit. I went to his office, actually drove to um, his office. I don't really remember the name of the street or whatever. I think it was on Ramsey Street, and I went to his office. I found his office, and he was sitting there behind the desk, and there was another guy sitting from the other side of the desk, and I was like, "Where is my money? Where's my $500?" And he was like, "I don't have $500." It was a black guy, and I'm like, "Man, you need to pay me the money. I mean, you signed a release. You signed the release of the EMD, and you need to give me the money now. Give me the check. Write me a check." And he's like, "There's no checks around here. There is no money. I don't know." And he started calling somewhere, and he was like, "I don't want to do something, that's gonna put me in trouble." But he already was in trouble. And anyway, I didn't get the money out of him. And later on, like very very late, like next year, I took him to court. Like whenever I had time and money for that, I took him to court. I think in like January or February the following year, 2017, and of course I won the court. It was so funny. I mean, I also invited to the court the closing attorney because they actually never secured the uh, the EMD check, right? I mean, when you are purchasing a house, you're supposed to put down earnest money deposit, and the closing attorney is supposed to secure that those funds. Okay, but they never actually secured the check. So I also took to the court the closing attorney, which was actually uh, pretty nice lady. She was a local pageant, uh, and she had some other charity activities and all that. She was a nice woman, and I really hated all that situation. I didn't like any of that, but I mean, hell, on that paperwork I could take to court two people for just one fee of $96, I think. So I filled up the second box and I put her name in it because I wanted her to feel a little bit accountable for all this because they never secured the check. And so she came there, and the judge, she excluded her from that case because she didn't have nothing to do with it. So basically I had to deal just with that guy. And in the end, like, I don't know, a couple months later, we meet up, and he paid I told him, hey man, if you pay that $500 directly to me, you don't have to pay any other fees or anything. But he decided to pay that money to the courthouse, and then the courthouse sent a check to me, and I think he paid like $650. So if he took care of it in the first place, I know it's not a whole lot of money. I mean, $150 is nothing, but if he took care of it in the first place back in September when he was supposed to, I didn't have to go through any of this, like, for 6 months. I didn't have to think about it or go to the court, because he actually had to pay for my fees. Yeah, the fees that I paid for the court, he had to pay for that. So he didn't have to pay any extra money. He just what all he needed to do, just give me the $500, and back in September of 2016, and that's it. So the sale, he could save, tons of trouble himself and me, and everything would be fine if he just gave me the money. So so I didn't sell the house, and I didn't have any money, and I needed to start working on the house after like 2 months, right? I really, like, together, it was like scattered, but together it was like 2 months that I didn't do any work on the house, and it was like September, and so I decided I'm gonna sell my van. So I was trying to sell it online, and I didn't find anybody, and then I was driving around town, and who's gonna give me the most money for it, and I went to a Daxis auto Daxis deals auto sales, and that guy, I mean, those people are from like Israel and something like that. So he gave me $21,000 for my van, and I actually had to I took the roof rack, because I bought me a brand new roof rack on that van for $2. It had a hydraulics on it, and it was like $2,200 I paid for that roof rack. So I took it off, and I still have that roof rack in my storage unit in Fayetteville at this moment. I was trying to sell that also, but nobody wanted it, so I just kept it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep it for my next van. Like, after I sell this house, I'm gonna buy the exact same van, and I'm gonna put the roof rack back on it, and that's still in my plan. I still have that in my future plans, but I didn't sell the house yet, and it's been like forever. Okay, so I sold the van, and I had $20,000, and I thought it's gonna be enough money to finish the house, and I needed to get another vehicle. So I was thinking I'm gonna buy like a beat up truck, just temporary solution. So I was going through the ads on Craigslist, and there was a couple of trucks, and and one truck really interests me, a uh, lifted F-250 with 8-foot bed and just a single cab, and it had like a, I don't know, 4-inch lift or 6-inch, and it had like 36-inch mud tires on it. And of course I never had a truck like that, and I kind of liked it, and it was he sold it to me for $3,000. Okay, $3,000, and I was like, okay, that's not a big chunk of money for me. I can do it. So I was thinking I'm gonna buy a truck under $5,000, and this truck fit in there in my budget, and I bought it, and the guy I bought it from, he was like 70 years old. He had tattoos, and he was talking about, he was showing me pictures. He was in jail for drugs, and he had some kind of history with uh, some of the biggest drug deals in state, and I don't know. I didn't want to get into it, but obviously he had some kind of history of drug dealing in North Carolina or elsewhere. I don't really know. And he was already like very old, and the guy that actually posted the ad for him was somebody else, because he probably didn't know how to work with computers and stuff, so he had somebody else to put the ad on Craigslist. And they were just a bunch of scammers. They knew that the truck has got some kind of issues, and I actually test drove it, and of course I couldn't tell if the four-wheel drive is working on it or not. I couldn't tell if the power steering is gonna be fine. And of course it wasn't. Okay, so right after I left his house, uh, I drove it home, and after like a couple miles the power steering gave up. Okay, so the power steering was messed up, and it was so hard to turn the wheel that man, when I got back to my house, I just you know I couldn't even turn the wheels and back up to my driveway. So I got home and I couldn't even drive it. I just bought a truck and I couldn't even go anywhere. So first thing I had to do, I had to fix the power steering on it. So I went to actually walked across the street. Luckily, I had a couple of auto parts stores like 5 minutes from my house. So I walked to the store, got the power steering. No, no, actually, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. See, I don't remember many things. So I went to the store and got the power steering, and also got the rack. Uh, what's it called? The gearing, the gearing for the power steering. And I actually drove by a couple of repair shops with those parts, and I went to one repair shop and met a actually Polish guy, and he fixed the truck for me. So that together cost me like $500, okay, for the parts and for the labor. So he replaced the power steering for me, because I didn't have, first of all, uh, any experience with it, and I didn't have probably some tools I would need. I mean, I had a bunch of tools, but I didn't want to mess with it, so I took it to the repair shop, and he fixed it for me. So the next day, I could drive this truck. Okay, I had a bunch of other problems with the truck, like the the uh, the battery died and the alternator died right on the day when the Hurricane Mathew was. Okay, so uh, and also the truck sometimes wouldn't start at all. It had some electric wiring problems with the relays, and later on I actually had to replace all the relays because they were all rusted inside, and none of the relays would work. So sometimes I couldn't start the truck at all, and sometimes I couldn't turn it off. So I had to like disconnect the battery. Every time I went to a hardware store, uh, to building supply store, like Lowe's or Home Depot, and I parked at the parking lot, and I turned the key off, and the truck kept running, and I couldn't turn it off, so I had to like disconnect the battery. And on other days I was driving somewhere, and the car just died in the middle of of the road. And I had to like push it to the parking lot, like in on the Skybo Road in Fayetteville. So I had to like push it on the parking lot, and I couldn't start it. I mean, I had so much fun with that truck. I mean, on multiple occasions like this, and the tires were old and they would like blow up, and I had to get another used tires. uh, like on two occasions I actually was driving somewhere, and my tire blew up, and I had to like pull on the sidewalk and just jack it up and leave it there. I called me an Uber. And when somebody with Uber came, and I had like this big tire, and can I put it in your trunk? Yeah, of course. And this one time, this little lady came with a Nissan Sentra, and I put the 36-inch tire in her trunk. It was so funny. Anyway, I got a bunch of stories. It just needs to come up my mind. But basically, what I want to do, I want to get to that storm finally. So on October 8th, okay, in the morning, I got up early because I knew it's gonna be a problem. Something was gonna happen. I knew that, but I didn't know that this much water is gonna fall down. And I got up early, and it was raining heavy, like really heavy, all night and then all day. And I got to the house in the morning, and the water was not raising yet, like from the creek behind the house. Like there's a creek behind the house and another small streams on the sides. So the house is surrounded by water. And so what I started to do, I started moving my tools and crap from the garage up, because I didn't know how high the water is gonna go. And then I was trying to cover the air vents from the crawl space, and I was trying to cover the doors so that the water wouldn't get there if it raises up there. So I was trying to cover all the vents, and of course it didn't work later on. And then the water started raising like in the morning, and I started really panicking. And I had a garage full of tools and materials, equipment. So I started moving everything, and my neighbor came by, and he started helping me. And I also had 2,000, not 2,000, maybe like 1,200 square feet of hardwood flooring in the garage stored. It was like a one full pallet of hardwood flooring planks. And I started moving that upstairs to save it from the water, because of course I couldn't know how high the water is gonna go. And that was really exhausting, and I was running back and forth, and those bundles were really heavy, and I was carrying some of them all the way to the second floor, which I didn't have to do, but I did it. So about half of that pallet I carried up to second floor, and half of it just downstairs on the first floor. And we moved the equipment in the house and all the expensive tools and all that. And then I saw the water raising, and then the power cut off. All right, the power cut off, and I realized the sump pumps in my crawl space are not gonna work without power. So I decided I'm gonna go to a hardware store and get a generator. But of course, all the generators were sold out from all the hardware stores like Lowe's and Home Depot. All the generators were gone, and and I even think the stores were closed. I don't really remember. So I drove around a town with my truck, which of course was acting up. I couldn't turn it on, turn it off, and the truck was giving me a hard time. And actually on one occasion I just left it running in front of the store. And then I went to local store, Northern Tools store, and I bought a generator there for $600. It was like one of the mini generators, just 2,000 watts. And the lady at the register told me, you cannot return it because you bought it during the storm. And I'm like, okay, I don't care right now. I just need to get my pumps running under the house, so in case some water gets in there, I can pump it out. So this took me about an hour or so to find a generator, and then when I loaded up on my truck, I couldn't start the truck. My battery died, so I actually had to call my neighbor, and he had to come get me. And I left my truck, and I didn't even have anything on me. I just had a T-shirt, and it was raining heavy, and I was soaked wet from me running from the truck back and forth to the stores and driving around. I was soaking wet, and I was cold, and I was so tired already. And when we got back to the house, uh, I mean, it happened so fast. Like within 1 hour, the entire crawl space was flooded, and there was no way we could have pumped that water out. I mean, my neighbor brought a pump and hose, and we put it in the crawl space through a air conditioning hole, from the return hole. Air condition wasn't the return wasn't connected yet, and we put the pump in there. We started the generator, and it was just basically just wasted effort. I mean, it had absolutely no effect on pumping the water out. I mean, there was so much water coming in that there was no way. Okay, and I was also trying to hook up the sump pumps, but the generator was too weak for that. So all that effort was just waste of time and money. And of course, I couldn't return the generator. So later on, I actually sold it on Craigslist for like $350, and I never used it again. I just used it on that single occasion. And what else I wanted to say? Yeah, like a week before that flood, I actually installed a brand new duct work in the crawl space for the air conditioning. I bought all the flexible ducts, and I installed it to all the rooms, because the original ducting wouldn't fit anymore, and was also old, and I threw it away. So I was gonna install a brand new ducting. So uh, that got soaked, in that water. So most of it had to be replaced. Also, insulation on the main register, on the main duct, had to be replaced. Basically, everything got soaked, but I was so lucky that the water stopped like a few inches from the maybe like 6 inches from the actual house framing. So the water never touched my new uh, floor subfloor frame, and it never touched the insulation. And I think it was just luck. And the wife's neighbor, she always kept telling me, I was praying for you, and I was praying for you so your house don't get flooded. So I'm pretty sure that's because she was praying so much for me. That's why the water didn't get all the way up. you know. So the water basically stopped like right on the edge of the garage. It never even got in the garage. And man, I was I was helpless. I couldn't do anything about it. I was just watching the apocalypse, and I was just standing in my house, and I was watching out of my windows, and and just I was just watching the water just going through my yard and under my house. And I was also so wet because I was still running around the house in that deep water, and I was trying to cover all the vents. And so it didn't help. And my neighbor told me, hey, you shouldn't be standing in that water, because if they're gonna turn the electricity on, you're gonna get electrocuted. And I'm like, hey, you're right. But they never turned the power on until, like, I think like next day or so. I don't remember. So I was like soaking wet, and neighbor brought me some dry clothes because I was so cold. And I was like, shivering and shaking. And I literally thought I'm gonna get sick out of this. And I didn't eat anything. So we went. I went to get some burger later on, I think. And I don't know. I was just, in the afternoon, when I realized I cannot save anything, I can't do anything about it. I was just, just observing the situation. And uh, and other people just came by, like my neighbor's daughter came by, and his wife, I think, and another neighbor came by. And you know they were all, like, concerned about me and all that. And I appreciated, all their like effort and care. you know they helped me out a little bit, but there was it had absolutely no effect on anything. I mean, if the water decided to go higher, I mean, I couldn't do anything about it. So I was lucky that my house didn't get flooded. And that's the story for today. This is a part two of my life story. And I'm gonna pre-record another story, so these videos are not uh, too long. So I'm gonna cut it right now, and talk to you later, I guess.